I really messed up. I did the whole thing wrong. So now I'm starting again. If anybody comes in here, um, forgive me for being 27 minutes late because I already did the whole thing I was going to read. So now, here it is, 10:27 p.m. I'm Jenny, and I am going to go back to where I read what I've written about this event and read it to you so I don't leave anything out. It was quite a strange event. Okay, in 1991, I was attending a figurative sculpture class at Maryland Institute College of Arts in Baltimore in the evenings during the summer of 1991. One night after class concluded around 11 p.m., I helped the teacher and his wife clean up the classroom as I usually did. I'm leaving their names out just in case this gets around that they've been mentioned. Putting clay back into the vat, wiping down surfaces, etc. Excuse me. Then I phoned my husband to let him know I was on my way home. And he asked me to pick up some hot nachos for him while I was out. Okay, that's what he always did. That little cleanup and phone call took less than 30 minutes. So then I was in my car, headed home from Baltimore by 11:30 p.m. I headed down Liberty Road West towards Frederick, Maryland, because it was quieter than Route 40. It was just a normal night. There were small fog banks in the lower depressions along the road, and there were ordinary number of small critters along the way. It's a nice little country road. I traveled this way twice a week that summer, so I was very familiar with it. As I got near to Unionville, Maryland, I noticed a car off the side of the road, parked on the shoulder, and two people standing near it. I pulled up behind them, which I normally would not do while traveling alone, and got out of my car and walked up to them. They were looking at the sky to the northwest and pointed a bright white light. Okay, I have a picture that I made in 2001 when I first started remembering this. And I hope you can see there's two people here next to a car. There's a bright white light up here. And this is my car over here. There was a fence and a road. Not a real lot of things for me to paint. Okay, so they were looking at the sky to the northwest and pointing in a bright white light. It got bigger, and the next thing I knew, it had landed in the open field near us. And I climbed over the fence with the two people, and they each had a hold of my upper arms, and we ran towards the object. It didn't seem odd to me at the time, but they were both wearing white shirts and khaki pants, while I was wearing a peach tank top with lace at the neckline, and over it a white men's dress shirt tied at the waist with sleeves cuffed up above my elbows, and khaki shorts and slide-on sandals. So we were practically dressed identically. As we ran through the wet, newly mown grass, one of my shoes slipped off. I tried to stop and put it back on, and the two people tried to make me keep running. But I insisted that I would never find it in the dark, so they let me get my shoe back on and continued running. I am not, and have never been, a runner. Their grip on my arms made all the difference. They were really propelling me across the field. When we reached the small craft parked in the grass, the side door was already open and they were waiting for us. We jumped right in, and it was similar to the height of an open back of a van, so that was easy. Now I noticed here that I said we jumped in. I don't know about those two people. They might have stayed outside in the grass. Once inside, I immediately saw an injured alien lying on the steel floor of the vehicle. Well, it was metal. I don't know that it was steel. I had never seen anyone like him before. His skin was bright pinkish salmon color, and there was a large wound to the back left of his head, exposing some periwinkle lavender inner flesh, and a lot of bright pink blood was on the floor. His head was nearly bald, sparsely growing coarse hairs that were in small clumps that resembled bristles more than hairs, and dark brown in color. His face had big, loose folds on it, like a Shar-Pei dog, and his eyes were tiny and black. Okay, now I drew pictures, and I wasn't sure I could find the ones I did in 1991, but I did find them. But I drew them twice now. So this is how he appeared when I first got into the vehicle. He's laying on the floor on his side, facing away from me with this really bad injury on his head. And his face looked something like this. His eyes were tinier than that. I'm sorry, I can't seem to draw them tiny enough. But since I wasn't sure if I would find those pictures or not, because I had them packed away, I drew more. And this one just shows the head injury. Okay, he's really, really bright salmon pink color. And the blood was bright pink like Pepto-Bismol. And I redrew his face from memory. Obviously, it's not identical to the first drawing, but it's pretty close to the same. A lot of deep wrinkles in the face, a really loose flesh. It's just like if he was a basset hound or a Shar-Pei dog, that would make good sense. Okay, it was the middle of August, and he was wearing a wool three-piece suit with herringbone pattern, it was brown, and a goldenrod colored shirt and a necktie, looking like the last time he had been shopping was in the 1970s. So his clothes were pretty outdated by about 21 years, I think, maybe 20. With such warm clothing, I automatically thought he must have been passing for human somewhere in South America, where it would be winter. The two gray aliens that were in the vehicle in charge of it were concerned. They were trying to rescue this guy, but did not know enough about his physical makeup and wanted my help. I have no medical training aside from CPR and a little bit of Red Cross first aid, but they seemed sure I could assist them. I asked for some ice, and they didn't seem to understand. So when I requested cold water on a rag, they went and got paper towels and put water on them. Oddly enough, the paper towels were just like the brown paper towels we use in schools. So I'm thinking it's universal paper towels. I don't know. I had them wring most of the water out, and then I placed the damp rag on the wound to see if it might help. And the wounded alien was awake, but I don't recall him speaking to me at all. I decided to try to alleviate his pain with an energy balancing Gestalt thing I learned at a seminar during high school. I happened to be skipping my own classes at Albert Einstein High in Kensington, Maryland, and was at Kennedy High School visiting friends when I was invited to sit in on the seminar. So that was prior to my graduation in 1972, so nearly 2 decades before this alien event occurred. I sat cross-legged on the floor, and I got his head into my lap and placed my right hand on his forehead and my left hand at the base of his skull, and I led him in a meditation of envisioning the individual synapses in the brain as positive and negative charges. And as they were scrambled, we thought of how they should line up, positive on the right side, negative on the left, to balance his energy. That actually works pretty well with headaches, but you can't really do it to yourself. You have to do it to somebody else. I am not sure how long I was with them or what else happened, but the next thing I realized, I was in my station wagon heading east, and my hands were shaking, and I was very confused. I saw other cars and lights behind me in the distance as I looked in my rearview mirror, all surrounding the area I had just left. I got my wits about me and took the next intersection north to Route 40 and went west as I needed to get home. I took 15 north from Frederick as usual, and when I got to Emmitsburg, I went to the Highs at the west end of Main Street to get my husband's hot nachos. When I entered the store, the cashier, Debbie, said, "Oh my God, what happened to you?" And I asked her what she meant, and she showed me that my white shirt was on inside out, and my hair was a mess, and there was something pink all over me. My feet and ankles were covered with wet grass clippings, and it was obvious something had happened to me. I did not know what happened. I also did not know it was after 3:30 a.m. I would normally have been home by 12:30. So I'm 3 hours late. The things I've just described could have taken 20 minutes to half an hour. So there's 3 hours of time I don't know what happened. Or let's say 2.5, because there was some more driving happening after the event. Okay. I purchased the hot nachos, and I went and got into the car and I took off my white shirt and turned it right side out. I mean, the sleeves were still cuffed. It was buttoned inside out. That wasn't even easy to undo. Okay, so I put it on right side out and tied it at the waist the way I do it. And I headed home to 216 East Main Street in Emmitsburg. I parked and came in, and my husband was screaming at me. He accused me of having an affair with my teacher, who was my best friend from high school. I never did any such thing, and I was standing there with his hot nachos in my hand, defending myself. I did not know where I had been. I never started to remember any of the details until 2001, when I was living in Marlton, West Virginia. I keep trying to recall the missing time, but so far to no avail. One thing I forgot to mention, the two people standing next to the car by the side of the road, not only were their clothes very similar to my own, but I cannot remember anything about their heads or faces. It's a complete blank from the neck up. I do not know if the injured alien survived, if his injuries, he survived his injuries, or if he died. And I really do want to know. I tried my best to help him. Okay, so now I'm back from reading, and I don't know if anybody's joining me or not, but I will continue checking on the chat to see if anybody's here. Whoops. It seems like I can't type tonight. I put in, "Hello, let me know when you arrive." Okay, so a couple of things to go over. I did say that I started remembering in 2001. And when you have a blocked memory from a traumatic event, which I'm really familiar with, I've had a lot of blocked memories to deal with. And I was going to a therapist, so I asked her to help me. So she, taught me some guided meditations and things like that. I was living alone, so that makes it better when you're trying to recall things. You actually have peace and quiet to contemplate that, which is not the same as living with relatives or roommates or children. And although all those things are wonderful, peace and quiet is a good thing too. The marriage with that ex-husband ended in 1992, the following year. I found out he was the one that was doing all the cheating. And of course, that's why he was blaming me, right? Because that's what they do. Say, "Oh, you're evil, so..." I mean, I'm evil, so you must be doing what I do when nobody's looking. Anyway, let's see. It's 10:41 now. At least the broadcast is going on this time. I'm happy to answer questions if anybody has any. I can go into some speculations. I don't know how they found me. I was doing the same thing I would normally do twice a week, but I don't know how they knew I would be there. I believe that the two individuals at their parked car were probably aliens masking their reality or confusing my perception of them. And I'm sure that they were doing some kind of mind control because I never, ever would just pull over my car on a dark country road and go see why people are pointing up at the sky. I mean, would you do it? I wouldn't do it. I was 37, I think. Let's see. I turned 40 3 years later, so yeah, I was 37. I love math. And it was a warm, but not too terribly warm August night. You know how after a really hot day, there's fog settles into the little nooks and valleys along hills. You go uphill and everything's clear. You go downhill and there's a little bit of fog. It was one of those kind of nights. But the sky was clear. I'm thinking that probably other people saw this vehicle come down out of the sky, because by the time I was leaving, it seemed that there was a crowd collected in that area. And everybody should have been asleep by then, because that would have been 3 a.m. It's a tiny town. I don't think there's even a stoplight, or at least there wasn't back then. There might have been stop signs. Yeah, there's probably some stop signs. And it's pretty near Liberty Town, which is what the road is named after, which is just another tiny town. Nothing's going on there. There's cow pastures, open spaces, few random houses. It's a rural Maryland area, and it's very pleasant. But this was a surprise. I can't say how they knew that I would know anything that would help, or even if I did help. I tried to. Definitely running, that's something I don't do. And I know that in, I think, 1993, I had been at a place called Gesundheit in West Virginia that Patch Adams has. They're putting together a free hospital. And we were doing some volunteer work and camping out there and stuff like that. And one day I was coming down from the mountain path, and Patch came up on one side of me, and Blair, the chair, he was the chairman of the board or whatever, came up on the other side of me, and they grabbed me by the tops of the arms and started running forward. And I had an extreme reaction to that. I did the best I could to not let them know what a big flashback I was having of being forced forward, running at a pace that I can't keep up with. And I didn't know why I was reacting that strongly to it. It was really intense, emotional. And I'm not a real intense, emotional kind of person. As far as showing emotions, you really have to look hard to notice what they are. I've been called stoic. I've been called a lot of things. Anyway, I'm trying to anticipate what questions might be coming up. And also using up more time. It's 10:46. I don't know um, what happened to that alien. And that's the one thing that really bothers me the most. Not that there are aliens on the planet that can disguise themselves as humans until they get a severe head injury and then can't mask their reality anymore. It doesn't bother me about the Greys. I've known about the Greys for some time. Um, they have a moon base. I'm sure they probably have other secret bases I don't know about. And they're watchers. You know, they interact with us sometimes, and there's probably others that are rogues. I don't know. I haven't dealt with them as far as I'm aware. Um, but they are doing what they need to do. It's their job, and I guess I shouldn't really get into a lot of detail about that. A lot of what I know is speculative. Some of it is what I've been told by them. And I know everything you hear from somebody, if you can't verify it, you should take it with a grain of salt. So we'll see how some of this stuff pans out from things I've been told. Do feel free to leave questions, and I'll check my Gmail and see the questions posted. I'll do my best to answer them. Um, I do not allow anybody to say nasty things because, you know, I'm just a disabled grandmother and I like to be treated with respect, and I hope I would do the same to you. Um, we should all be kind because there's not enough time for nastiness, and nasty stuff I won't debate about, I'll just delete. Okay, so send real questions if you have them. Things you really want to know, things you've thought about that maybe I left out. If I have an answer, I will give it to you. If I don't know, I'll tell you that I don't know. Um, I'm very, very interested in the truth in every aspect of my life. Um, some things are better left unsaid, you know, falling into the too much information category. But that's neither here nor there. Anyway, I'm hoping everyone has a wonderful evening. It is 10:49 on July 1st, 2015. My name is Ginny. I hope you got something out of this. Hey, and if you were there in 1991 and saw this UFO, tell me. Tell me about it, okay? I want to know. Y'all be safe and have a blessed evening. Good night.